Okay. Hey, it's Dave, and I am sitting here with Becky Burton and Amy Hall, and the reason we are here today is we just want to cast some vision about what it looks like in the microchurch world with kids and kids of all ages, because we really want this to be a holistic experience. And so we've probably communicated fairly well with our leaders and hosts about the vision, but we haven't really made anything or communicated well with parents about the vision for this. And so now that we're 2 weeks in, which really isn't a large case study, but 2 weeks in, we wanted to bring Becky in and just kind of have her share her heart as a parent about the microchurch experience while having kids, being kids. And so Amy is actually the leader at her microchurch, and so we brought both of them in just kind of have a conversation for other parents to be able to hear this and watch this down the road and just kind of understand the heart behind kids and the microchurch movement and how important it is for them to be with us. So thanks for coming and hanging out with us for a few minutes as we do this. So when you first heard about the microchurch shift and that our church was kind of heading in this direction, just share some kind of raw thoughts about, as a parent specifically, what your thoughts were about this shift.
Well, I was at first very hesitant, just because my kids have so much energy, as I'm sure, they're kids, so they're 5 and 6. So, yeah, I was very nervous about going and being in a small group of people, especially living room, whatever the situation is for your microchurch. And so I was just very hesitant with the kids having so much energy and how that would work with them. It's hard when you feel like when you go to church, it's pointless because you are distracted by your kids, and I mean, you said that we would get into it, but basically I feel like after going, because I was hesitant, but then after going, I just realized that people come around and they help you, and the kids really adjust to it, and I don't know, it's been going well, so.
Awesome. So, and you already kind of alluded to it, and we will get into more specifics in just a bit, but describe that first week, like maybe even fears and feelings, like that morning, prepping the kids, and then showing up, and then kind of what happened over the course of that microchurch experience.
Yeah, so going into it, I did do a little bit of prepping in the car, but I didn't really know what to prep them for. I just knew that it was going to be an interesting dynamic. And so, we of course were driving there, and I was just like, you guys, you need to make sure that you are staying quiet and, just all the things that moms do to prep their kids for church. And because my kids just, even when they whisper, they don't know how to whisper. So, so we did a lot of prepping, and when we got there, I feel like, I don't know how, it's always different getting somebody else's perspective, because as the mom, you're just very aware of the craziness of your kids. And so, but I feel like it was good. They would get up in front of the TV sometimes, and I would just give them that look, just sit down, and sometimes they would, sometimes they would not. They'd just stand there oblivious. So they did a lot of, running back and forth, asking Patrick for snacks, and that's okay. And they, just the church, definitely, I don't know, they came around and helped me with the kids, so.
Awesome. Amy, from a leader perspective, week 1, so you're kind of like, I don't know what's going to happen. Yeah. What's God going to do? Like, is technology going to work? Is what's going on? Like, what's the perspective of you? Because it wasn't just your kids. There were a few different kids of all ages there. So from a leader's perspective, week 1.
I thought it was, better than I anticipated, truly. I think I was prepared to see everything go wrong that could go wrong. That's just kind of the prepper in me. So, I mean, and our host was, I think they were a little nervous about what if things didn't go right as well. But they've done a great job preparing their home for this experience. And, keying in on something that Becky said is, I think, really an important point to bring out when she said, how moms get their kids prepared for church. And in this environment, it's a whole different kind of being prepared because, I was that kid in church from birth pretty much. And preparing me for church was you better sit still and not make noise and not, and that's not what this is. And so you really couldn't say, well, there are going to be people standing up front singing, or there's going to be a preacher standing up there talking, because it's all on TV to them. And to the kids, it's TV. Mm-hmm. So we had some fun with one of Becky's kids watching the worship part, and there was a quick transition. He said, "Hey, where'd they go?" So, just being kids and just enjoying some of that fun. And I thought they did fine. They did go in and out, and they did pick at Patrick about the snacks, and Patrick just kind of gave it right back to them and had a good time with them. And I think that was important too, that the people that were there understood that it's okay to let's just be family. That's what we are. Mm-hmm. Let's be family. And we did kind of lay the groundwork at first and just put it out there, get rid of the elephant in the room and say, hey, this is what it's probably going to look like, and it's okay for it to look like that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. From day one, and Becky goes almost back to day one when we were at Kreiser. And I've just always felt like, because a lot of the older generation, we grew up in that environment. Sit up straight, don't make noise, don't bring attention to anybody. And, it was out of respect. That was just the generation. But from day one, right, wrong, and different, my mentality has been like Jesus at the Sermon on the Mount, right? So Jesus is there, he's teaching his disciples, and yet you've got this hillside of like this eclectic crowd of like Pharisees wanting to trip him up and kill him, and his disciples learning, as he's teaching, to semi-interested guys about this teacher, but they're talking about the catch of the day, about how their fishing trip went, and some women who are there listening, and then others who are talking about, oh, did you get the bread out of the oven, whatever they're doing, and then kids who probably aren't listening but are skipping rocks on the water or running about, asking mom and dad questions and all this kind of stuff. And so, what if we cultivated environments like that, to where you just put the word out there, you preach, you worship, you sing, you pray, you fellowship, and understand that there's going to be all of this white noise also going around. At least they're in proximity together, learning together at some level. And so that's the environment. So, if they're having a bad day, parents can take them out, give them time to, decompress, whatever needs to happen, let them run around outside, get some energy out, whatever, come right back in. But generally speaking, running in front of the TV is going to happen. Like, run to get snacks, run to the bathroom, hey, mom, hey, dad, hey, whatever. She won't give me this, he won't give me this, whatever. That's going to happen, and we need to be okay with that. So, did you notice between week 1 and week 2, and we're only 2 weeks in again, but from week 1 to week 2, was there much of a difference in their expectations, your expectations, and or behavior?
Yeah, I feel like they really enjoyed it. They definitely spent, what I noticed from week 1 to week 2 is they spent more time in the living room. The first week, they were doing a lot of back and forth, but they were in another room for a good portion of it, playing with toys and stuff. But I noticed the second week, this past week, they just sat there in a little desk that they had with markers and a dry erase little board thing, and not directly in front of the TV, but close to the TV. So, in my head, I'm like, don't stand up. Like, I don't know, because I feel bad for distracting other people, but then, everybody that's sitting in that living room is just, they are able to focus. I think it's just a fear that I have, and they're able to focus, and of course there's times where my kids were, like, look, and, Allie, I think she was sitting on the couch, and right there, so of course she got the brunt of my children and their drawings, but it was just, I don't know, I feel like it was a good experience because they were more involved, and they at one point were laying, they had a blanket out on the floor, were laying there, and I don't know, if they were 100% listening when I, put them on the couch with me, and I would say that I believe that God is moving in this whole thing, and that that is really good for my kids to be in this environment and to see everyone else worshiping and me worshiping, and even if they don't stand there with me and sing with me or whatever when we're praying and they're like trying to talk to each other, I'm just like, but it's okay, and I feel like that I have to believe that they're getting something out of it, and I know that they are. So
I think that's an amazing recount.
Yeah.
I think it's absolutely just confirmation of the things that we've been talking about for months now about the Acts 2 church, and how this model is really representative of what the New Testament worship gatherings look like. The kids, I think, learned quickly. They're bright kids, Children will learn quickly, and usually more readily than adults do. But I think it's going to be a learning experience. It's already been a learning experience, but it's going to be even more of a learning experience for all of us. The kids, whether they expressed it or not, they didn't know what to expect either. And they came, and it was okay. And, nobody was expecting too much from them, and they were able to kind of play and have a good time, all within the confines of, what we thought was, the right mixture of activity, I guess. And then the adults began to learn that, this is not really a distraction, that they're going to do their thing, and they might be getting some of the message, and they may not, but you can still concentrate on what's going on and be responsive to those kids. And I think that as we go on, we're all going to learn a little more about how to pull the children into the experience that we're having, and not just try to, sort of make it all okay. It's going to be good at some point. I just really feel like we're learning, all of us, as we go, how to make it better all the time.
Yeah, and we've said this, that it's a paradigm shift, and it's really a new perspective of how we view church and the gathering of God's people. And I have to share this story real quick, that one of my new friends that I've met on this journey is a leader of a micro church, house church movement in Minnesota. And he was on a Zoom call with some of our leaders, and I didn't know he was going to share this story, but he was sharing the story of how, like 3 years ago, he had a 3-year-old son at the time, and somebody from their house church had invited an addict from Walmart or something, kind of arbitrarily, like, hey, you should come to our house church. The dude shows up and obviously strung out on something, and kind of stumbles into the house, and you think, like, as we're thinking, like, even as parents, like, I don't know if I want my kids around this guy, like, that's our fear, and that's just how we think. And my friend Jeff said the guy comes in, gets welcomed, kind of sits on the floor in front of a couch, kind of knees up, kind of leaning against the couch, And he said his 3-year-old comes in, gets on the floor, and latches onto this guy's lower leg. Like giant bear hugs this guy's lower leg. And again, as a parent, you're thinking, all right, come back over here. You know, I mean, that's our overprotective inclination. And he said the guy just starts bawling and says, I have never experienced love like that before. Like unconditional, like kid comes up and just bear hugs him. And he said that was the beginning. And he said over the course of the next 2 to 3 years, that guy came, got connected, gave his life to the Lord, has since moved to Arizona and leads a house church movement in Arizona. And now his kid is like 6 years old. And they do readings each week. And he said his kid is now, 3 years ago, they were just running around, hugging people, hitting people, running in front of the TV, those kind of things. And now 3 years removed from that, his kid is reading the readings through the week and actually is like, hey, Dad, man, the Lord just put this on my heart. Can I share this at house church on Sunday? So, like, I hear those stories, and, like, at the training, I was like, oh, my goodness, man, I can't wait for those days. It's going to take time. It's going to take patience and flexibility, and we've kind of thrown around this hashtag of embrace the mess because life is messy for all of us, and church is not a place where we need to put the mess out. Like, we need to bring it in with us. Know that life is messy. Know that God loved us in spite of our messiness and sent His Son to die for us in the midst of that. And so just to embrace that, and that includes our kids. And so I can't wait to hear, because I think what you said, Amy, is true as well. And Becky, you did give incredible feedback of that experience, because it's going to take time. It's going to take commitment. It's going to take investment by not just the parents, but everybody within those micro-church communities to embrace this and see these kids and plant seeds one at a time into these kids of gospel hope in Jesus. And man, just dream about a couple of years from now, like your kids, like sharing the experiences of seeds that have been planted over the course of this time. And so, anyway, I know we got to wrap up, but so what excites you about the micro church world as a parent specifically? Maybe even as a follower of Jesus.
I really like the atmosphere that it's just we are all together in at these houses, offices, churches, whatever, wherever we are at, together worshiping and having people include my kids, because before this, well, actually before COVID, we had the kids separate church, and I just know it's exciting to me, because I know not only do I need the community of other Christ followers, but I also know that my kids need that. And when we switched to not even before the micro church, but back when we were doing it at the lake, but there was no or outside, it would sometimes be at Randolph Park, and I think I just have this very high expectation of my kids, and when they're with me and not in a separate kids church, I have these fears just going through my head constantly, and I think I just need to learn that that is Satan putting those fears in my head, because people want to love all my kids, and people want to include the kids in the worship service and the prayer and all of that. And I think it's very important for my kids to see me doing that every week, as well as everyone else that is there. So I think that's just really important, and I haven't done well with it, because I struggle every Sunday. I struggle with my kids are those kids that are distracting to other people, and sometimes I feel like, what's the point? I'm not going, I'm going, but I can't pay attention to anything that Dave is saying. And, but I think that the micro church has really taken that fear away, because I'm able to, I'm not getting every single word that he's saying, because there are times
That's okay, nobody does, so.
There are times where I, have to, if they're really crazy, and, I have to quiet them down. But for the most part, it's just a very fun, relaxed, and just I can just feel Jesus' presence in that living room. So
that paradigm shift is, I think, more powerful than we've given it credit. I love hearing her talk about how this has changed church for her, and I think that, to me, what's really exciting is the multi-generational aspect of this, because Becky has a 5 and a 6-year-old, but in our same micro church is a couple with a 10-month-old, and they're getting to watch what she does and how she struggles and how this group supports her, and they have that opportunity to learn from her. Also, there are people that are older than Becky and have already raised children, and so they're able to come around her and talk about how this is different than how they had to raise their children in church, or whatever. And everybody gets to learn from one another, and I think that's really the beauty of this shift, is that family is deepened and expanded in a way that we've always wanted at North Star, and we want to know people at that level, and this really gives us an opportunity to do that.
Awesome. Super, super encouraging to hear you guys share those thoughts. Any closing thoughts or words before we land the plane here?
Well, I also feel like, going off of the story you were talking about, I feel like the more kids that come, not the better it would be, but I did, when we left last week, Riley had mentioned that they do have, the 10-month-old, but she was just saying, I think the more kids that come, they'll be able to help each other, I guess. So, right now, it's Ellie, and then it's my two. But I would really like to see, and it doesn't have to be that microchurch, it can be any of them, but just the kids being able to, all sit on the floor, and I think that kids are, what I was going to say about the story you said, is I think kids are the most welcoming. And so I feel like, because they're kids, they don't have a lot of these fears that would go through their head. They're so innocent, and my kids, especially Jackson, are so outgoing, and so they don't know any strangers. So I just feel like the more kids that we have in microchurch, the more of a welcoming and relaxed environment, which is weird to say relaxed when you're talking about young kids, but they make it feel more welcoming and homey, I guess.
There's a reason Jesus said, "Let them come."
Yeah. So.
That's awesome. Good word. Amy?
Well, just as we continue to learn, I hope that other people will share, what's working in their microchurch lessons that they've learned. We've already learned a few.
About the snacks.
Kids need snacks.
Make sure that they have snacks ahead of time.
And, the host, I don't want, I personally don't think the host needs to feel like, I need to have snacks for everybody.
Oh,
but,
I brought the second week. Yeah. I brought snacks for them.
So little kids don't quite understand the can'ts that adults understand. So snacks are good. And also, our host, between week 1 and 2, kind of moved all the tempting toys into the living room, which kind of helped a little bit. And then we were able to watch and see what the children were enjoying, and now we can formulate a plan a little bit more to help them engage a little better. So I hope other people will share the things that are working or not working, so that we can all learn together.
Absolutely. It's a work in progress, and flexibility was one of the key words we used at the very beginning of this. Like, we're going to continue learning, and I think that's critical. Watch and listen, right? See what works, because all of our kids are different. They're different ages. They're different wirings. Even twins, you can have completely opposite personalities, and so that's just going to be the nature of it. Just continuing to learn, flexible, share your ideas. That's great. Resources. We're trying to provide our hosts with snacks and things like that that are conscientious with allergies and all that. So we're trying to learn and continue trying to cultivate an environment that's going to be most effective for families as a whole as we move forward. But only 2 weeks in, already God moving and tearing down walls, so it's super, super exciting. So if you have any questions about being a parent, having kids, or what micro churches are, you can check out our website at northstarpulaski.org, or you can download our app or any of our social media sites that'll have links that'll take you to these kinds of videos and FAQs about how to get connected and involved. And yeah, we're just praying that the Lord continues just transforming us more and more into the likeness of Jesus every day. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.